Hairstyle.
in charge MANODARPAN and all representatives from SCERT, CBSC, KVS, NVS, district, block, and cluster level officers from different states. The orientation program on the mental health and well-being of school students, a survey, and the Modular Handbook on early identification and for mental health problems.
That's it.
MANODARPAN Cell, as I've just mentioned, is the initiative which was taken by Ministry of Education under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. This initiative actually it aims to support students, teachers, and families during the COVID times and beyond COVID-19 also. It was started by the Honorable Minister of Education on 21st July. The initiative envisaged to support and promote well-being, encourage online learning among students, and enhance life skills during COVID and beyond. Some of the activities which have been taken up by the MANODARPAN initiative and by MANODARPAN Cell established in NCERT, which has a very active working group members and which has faculty from RIs and from NCERT who work towards the work of the activities which are to be taken up. So in this, the very first activity I would like to talk about is that a MANODARPAN web page was created on the ministry's web page, and the link is right here. And I'm sure most of us in the education are aware of this, as communication has been sent to the schools that this should be, put up on their website. So on this, we have advisory guidelines, we have handbooks on psychosocial support. We also have put up practical tips and posters, videos on do's and don'ts for psychosocial support, and FAQs are also there. The next prominent activity and the most important is the telecommunication services which have been started for students, parents, and teachers. This was one of the most significant activity which started right at the outbreak of the pandemic, and a national toll-free helpline number was set up to reach the students from schools, colleges, and universities, and their teachers and families to provide them support. We have about 350 counselors who are providing honorary services through this telehelpline services. And these services are provided from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with the help of our technical wing, which is Central Institute of Educational Technology, CIT, NCERT. At any point in time, about 80 counselors from across the country are mapped to the IVRS to provide the support and to help students deal with their concerns. The next is the interactive sessions and the interactive webinars we have had. This is a major activity in terms of creating awareness and advocacy about MANODARPAN and about mental health and well-being. Paricharcha is one such webinar which is held by MANODARPAN Cell NCERT. And this is every Friday, which it is being held, and it has been telecast on PM eVidya channel and NCERT official YouTube channel. The working group members also have been organizing webinars under the banner of MANODARPAN Samvedna, which also aim towards building awareness and advocacy, and to bring together experts in the field to interact, to discuss issues related to mental health and well-being. Sahyog sessions are sessions for our children, and every day they have been held on PM eVidya channel and NCERT YouTube channel. And we have about more than 375 sessions of Sahyog which have been telecast up till now. And for the benefit of our viewers, I would like to share that all this can be accessed from our NCERT official YouTube. And it's a big resource which can be made use of by all schools as and when it is required. The next is the Mental Health Week, which is celebrated every year. And last year also we celebrated the Wellness Week with our schools, and so have we done this year. The communication sent by the ministry to all schools ensures that schools participate in undertaking activities related to mental health and wellness. And a number of activities are taken. They have a positivity board, they have some poster making, they have comics, slogan writing, and yoga and meditation. A number of these activities are suggested, and each schools take up activity depending on what they would like their children to engage in. With this, we also had this particular year, we have had a national conference on mental health and well-being in schools, the role of school administrators. This conference was just held this week, and it just got over. It was a 2-day conference, and we had about 1,200 school administrators who were part of the conference. The idea was that if the school administrators who are the leaders in the school and who are heading such a vibrant organization like a school, if they are sensitized to the concerns of mental health and well-being, it would definitely percolate down. So with that aim, we have had a conference, and the outcomes of the conference have been very encouraging. The other national conference was on comprehensive mental health initiative in schools, bridging the gap, evolving best practices for 21st century schools. The aim of this conference was also to bring in those practices which are already taking place in the country, and also to explore the researches which have been taken up by the scholars and sharing of those researches. Best practices which are there already taken up by schools have also been shared. And with these two conferences would provide the way forward for taking mental health well-being work in the future years. MANODARPAN also seeks collaboration for creating awareness, advocacy, and training of our counselors, of our teachers. The approach with which MANODARPAN moves ahead is, taking along all stakeholders, catering to the whole school in terms of creating awareness, in terms of, working out with all stakeholders for mental health and well-being. We've had very fruitful engagements and collaboration with the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, NIMHANS, Bangalore. We have also had collaboration with the Association of Indian Universities, university colleges, UGC. A number of colleges in Delhi have been organizing programs under the banner of MANODARPAN. More recently, we have had Public Health Foundation of India, PHFI, which has collaborated with MANODARPAN. We are also moving in for collaboration with the United Nations of Drugs and Crime Office here in Delhi, and UNODC is looking forward to collaborating with MANODARPAN. And these are the, some of the very prominent collaborations. To take forward the policies initiative of mental health and making it part of, all aspects of the child, some themes for Skill India Hackathon were provided, which were related to mental health. And these themes, the 10 identified themes, were shared with the Skill India Hackathon, and the Innovation Cell at the Ministry of Education had taken these forward, and they became part of such a big venture which was taken by the ministry. Towards collation of our efforts, we brought out Mantarang, a compilation of the activities in the form of a digital, collation, which was there on the ministry's website. And if the schools and the people who are listening, if they go on the ministry website, they would see that the work done last year was projected here as part of, Mantarang. The 8th is Directory of Counselors, to provide online resource to people working in the schools, to provide them details about counselors, counselor support, online directory of about 350 counselors trained by NCERT and trained by other organizations across the country have been compiled. and it is put up on the MANODARPAN webpage of the ministry. This resource should be used by everybody in the field of education who's working for mental health and well-being. Recently, very significant two documents have been brought out. One is the Mental Health and Wellbeing Survey, which was taken up. And this survey actually, a copy of that, a soft copy of that is on the webpage. And this is the first of its kind in the country where, about 380,000 students participated voluntarily on aspects related to mental health and well-being. And we got information and we got inputs on what is it that they are feeling and what is it that they seek. So this is a very, very prominent work, and we're going to talk about that today in the orientation. The other one is a handbook, which talks about how early identification and intervention of mental health can be taken up in school-going children. This also is a resource which can be taken up by the school systems. With this, I have spoken about the activities, and I would like you all to have a look at the survey on mental health and well-being of school students. This is the survey which was taken up by MANODARPAN. And if I can take you through the survey very quickly, it is on the MANODARPAN webpage of Ministry of Education, and also on on the NCERT website. And if we will quickly make you go through the whole survey. Can you please, Govind, isko jara nikal sakte ho? This was released by the ministry as part of Shiksha Parv, and the details you can see. It talks about analysis at different levels, and the analysis, or dikha do please, or dikha do, yes. The analysis has talked about the highlights. It also talks about specific findings to specific aspects. Yeah. So this is one, and we'll quickly go to the second one, which is the Modular Handbook. Our director has another meeting. I will just, we can come back to this again, but I would just want everyone to have a look at this. Govind, jaldi se thoda aur aage kar lo. Both these initiatives, both these work documents were taken up under the MANODARPAN initiative and released by the Ministry of Education on 6th September this year. So with this, thank you so much. And this is about MANODARPAN. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would now invite Ms. L.S. Jansen, Additional Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy, to please address the group.
Yes, can you hear me now? Very good morning to everyone, respected Professor T.P. Saklani ji, Head of MANODARPAN Cell in NCERT, Professor MANODARPAN Working Group eminent member and Dr. Jitinder Nagpal ji, and all the esteemed working group members of MANODARPAN under the Ministry of Education, and all the participants in today's workshop, SCERTs from directors, SCERT directors education and their team, and from the Samagra Shiksha of the respective states. I am very happy to be here today in this important meeting that we are having, this workshop. Are you able to see the screen? There is somebody's photo on the screen. I can.
Ma'am, we can hear you, and it's yeah.
I was not able to see anything, so yeah, now I can see and I can. So yes, I thank you all for coming forward to take part in this very important orientation workshop that is in the course of the World Mental Health Week. All throughout, as Professor Anjum Sibia has very elaborately shared with us, we've been having a series of conferences and workshops, and we have requested all the states also to take up various activities in the course of this week, which I'm sure you all would have. We want to use today's session to highlight the importance of mental health and well-being, and how it is of growing importance in the field of education, in the school ecosystem especially. In a recent conference, we discussed about how actually we should be looking at this from a wellness perspective, how educators, how especially the education administrators and the teachers and the school management can play a big role in the proactive and preventive aspects for mental health and well-being. And instead of looking at it from a mental illness point of view, we want to make very clear that we want to look at it from a mental wellness perspective. So today's workshop is based on two very important documents, two important releases of the Ministry of Education. Recently, in the beginning of this year, one-of-a-kind mental health survey for school-going children was conducted, and nearly 4 lakh children's responses were received. And the findings of it have been very telling, very revealing, in the sense that now we understand a fair bit. We have a good representation of the kind of self-perception, the kind of social relations that the children in our schools are having, and importantly, what is causing them joy or happiness, and what is causing them stress or anxiety. And today in today's workshop, we will be sharing with you about that, and it will be very interesting. But offhand, I can just say that one very important part was that the children felt that school, the academics and examinations caused them a lot of stress, and also that they wish that they could find more supports in psychological support, social support from the school itself, from their peers, from their teachers, especially from the school system, apart from their own families. So we are very keen to share this with you, and I hope that this will throw a lot of light in working on your respective states' policies and plans for bringing in the aspect of mental health and mental well-being and emotional well-being in the school system. You all would be quite aware of the growing extent of mental health and mental disorders across the world. In the recent WHO World Mental Health Report, it has shown that almost around 13% of the global population is suffering from some mental disorder or the other, mostly anxiety and depression, and of course other developmental disorders, and also conduct disorders, autism, and things like that. What in the Indian scenario is quite alarming is also that most of these mental health conditions, the problems all start from around the age of 14 years, and that is at the peak of the school going age. And this is when otherwise we are aware that a lot of problems are faced as the academic burden grows, and also and as the children reach the age of adolescence, and uh, various other considerations come into being. But it is important that we need to work together in this, and the school system has to come in a big way to deal with this. We also want to highlight about the awareness on learning disability, intellectual disorders. Many a times, the school system may not be very kind or supportive towards the children who are perhaps suffering from these. We do not often take the time to find out what is the background, what is actually wrong, what could be causing this kind of behavior. Because apart from anxiety disorder and depression, a lot of behavioral problems are also seen, and of great concern is the growing trend of substance abuse in our school-going children. Even it's not confined anymore to the elite private schools, but also in a growing number of our own government schools that this kind of problems are arising. So we feel that in the Ministry of Education that this is the right time, and it's high time that we all pay attention to this area, apart from the usual, the important areas, of course, of academics and otherwise overall education. And as mentioned in the earlier introductory speech, the national education policy also talks very eloquently about mental and emotional well-being, apart from physical and health and well-being. We also feel that actually these two go hand in hand. And apart from academics, NEP says that we are not to look at these as curricular or extracurricular. There is no watertight compartments, no separation, no hard separation is to be seen. So we would like that slowly the whole approach should be of a whole school, a holistic one, where every aspect of the child, from his cognitive, his intellectual growth, to his behavioral, emotional, his physical, all aspects and his spiritual growth, his values growth, everything is taken into consideration. I'm very hopeful that today's orientation will be very helpful to all of you who have come to attend this workshop. What we are looking for is that you would be the carriers of this message for your respective states. And we are looking forward to have a series of training modules. You are all aware of the Nishtha training for the teachers. We are making a plan to bring in a module on mental health and well-being through the Nishtha platform. But apart from that too, from various activities that you do, please do also look at it from the mental health focus and bring in activities which can foster good and supportive system in the school, and the children and the teachers also can function. I also want to just mention a word here about the school counselors. As such, we are supposed to have school counselors in each school, but manpower constraints would be there, qualified personnel's constraint may be there. But we feel that parents and the community can offer a great deal of support at the very initial stage itself. The school management, the parents and the general community, a lot of resources would be there. If the will is there, I think we can make a big intervention in this regard. The students themselves, a lot of peer educators, these systems are there which can all be put into practice to make our approach to school, to education in a most holistic way. So without taking much time, I would like to thank you all for joining and to make the best of today's session. We would hope to, we hope that we can organize such training sessions, have training sessions for master trainers for the early identification and what teachers can do, what the school system can do for intervention to bring about a very wholesome, supportive mental health ecosystem in the school. So thank you very much to each of you.
Morning to all of you. Additional Secretary Madam Junction, all participants, state SCRT directors, educationists, counselors, and all our NCRT faculty. Lot has been said about this. What the MANODARPAN is, mental health survey, and Professor Anjum Sivia has thrown light on these issues in detail, elaborated upon this. Madam Changsan has importantly pointed out many vital issues relating to the mental health and how we can build the capacity of our teachers and provide the mental support to our students. That is very important. While we go through the modern tools and techniques of defining the health and considering upon these problems of distress and obsession and problems, psychological problems being faced by the kids, it has been become important to realize that what our tradition has to do with this, how we had been doing this in earlier times also. Connect to the ancient to the modern is very important because modern science, all we have noticed that it emerged from certain aspects. So health and normality have always remained elusive to define. Nobody can perfectly define it because the presence of health goes unnoticed. It is only the disease or illness which is noticed immediately. Normality or the health has been variously described as the absence of illness, presence of average health, presence of ideal health, health as adaptation, etc. None of these definitions are completely satisfactory. World Health Organization had defined health as not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, but positive physical, mental, social, and spiritual health. However, this definition is ambiguous, idealistic, and cannot be used in practice. Patanjali has defined health as optimal utilization of one's physical, intellectual, and emotional faculties to maintain harmony with the self without undue preoccupation with the environment. So this definition is easily the best among all the other definitions. So while defining health, we have to take note of these well-established definitions as our Ayurvedic tradition has defined. It takes into account capabilities of an individual and emphasizes harmony with the self. I also go even further to define that harmony with oneself, harmony with the nature, that is very important. If we are not in harmony with ourselves, if we are not in harmony with nature, then there are certainly problems we are going to face today. Lot of these problems are coming up because we have forgotten these parameters, how to behave, how to react, and this starts from the family itself. So schools can do a lot, teachers can do a lot, but what family has to do, that is very important. The very component of family and the very composition of family and the very behavior of family and the very activities of family, if we have to introspect ourselves how the families are being run today, are we able to give time to our kids? Are we able to address their problems properly? Are we able to monitor and observe their activities on daily basis? Are we imposing something on them? Are our aspirations more of being imposed upon them, or are they being taken into account? These are the important issues which you have to take into account. So Sushruta has not defined health, but has elaborated certain parameters of health, and they are Samudos, that is equilibrium of body and humors, Samagni, uniform healthy digestion, and Samudhatu, normal body tissues, and then Malakiriya, normal process of excretion, and Prasanna Atma Manendriya Mana. Prasanna Atma Manendriya Mana means that is very vital to understand. Coordination of functions of body organs, mind and soul to maintain happiness. So I want to say that if we are not realizing these things, then how can you expect that? How can we expect that our functioning is normal, our behavior is normal? So I can speak a lot about this, but I have to attend another program. So someday other we'll have a session for 1 hour with me, so that I can elaborate upon this and how important and vital it has become to avoid the present pressures and pressure tactics being imposed upon the kids. That process starts from the family and even before the conception of the woman. Mother's health is much more important. Mother's identity is much more important. Mother's behavior is much more important. And if we start this process, that's why there were many sanskaras. Even pre-birth, there were sanskaras. Why these sanskaras were being conducted at that time? Well, a lot of research has been done on these issues, and the modern science is proving that nowadays. But it has already been established that how to go with the family, how to have the kids, what is the pattern of rearing the kids, and what values are being transferred to the kids, and what was our education system. Are we going to do that? Because I understand that with the change of time, there are a lot of contemporary problems and issues which we are facing, because most of the things we say that everybody is doing like this. We don't think that what we have to do. Because whenever we say all the people are doing this, we just comment, no, this is being done by maximum people. Doing by maximum people is one thing, and doing right thing is one thing. If maximum people are committing mistakes, should we go for that? We must have time to think what the people are doing, why the people are doing, and should we do that or not. But we are flowing in a same stream with, we should have capacity to resist, capacity to understand, capacity to observe. So my request to all of you, since we all are in the same, august or noble profession of shaping the mind and careers of our kids, so we have the very big responsibility, and these type of programs are very important. Our NCERT and Ministry of Education, under the chairmanship of Madam Changsan, this program is very good. But I hope that while doing researches, our tradition must be taken into account, and our measures and methods which have been evolved in ancient times, and they must also be taken into account, so that we can have a balance as per our society. Our norms must not be fixed by the norms of the European society or Eurocentric society, because their psychology, their social conditions, their cultural situations are different. Ours is a big, diverse country with different value systems. So that diversity and difference is not created by us. That has been created by the nature. And if we are not behaving properly with nature, how can we expect that we are behaving properly with ourselves? So that is my request, that if these programs are done like this is very good. But while going forward, we must rethink and also include the element and content of the ancient knowledge system. That will be important part, and it has done a lot of service to the humanity. So now we have to focus on this, and the mental health is the biggest challenge. I used to say that if software is good, then hardware is always good. But if software is in problem, then hardware is, however, it is the latest one, new brand, it will not reflect anything. When I say software, that is the mental health. If mental health is okay, then our physical health, lot of problems take care. But if our mental health is not okay, then lot of physical problems crops up. So that's why I want that this program should be grand success with cooperation of all of you. And taking into a positive and prospective aspect of direction. This program will certainly try to strengthen the mental health of our kids and ameliorate them from the coming up problems, pressures, obsessions, and all these tensions and frustrations. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Very thanks, sir. Very nice information for your physical and mentally. So that.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for bringing to our notice the very important points that we should not just borrow from the West, but also learn from our own traditional practices. As rightly pointed out by Director Sir, is the fact that preventive measures, as has been the practice in the Indian tradition, should be our focus. Taking forward the sessions, I would first like to thank our esteemed Secretary Ma'am for being here, for giving her time, and for being so passionate about this issue. Because always, she has been pivotal in conceptualizing this orientation, where she had the idea of bringing together all functionaries and practitioners from the SCERTs right up to the cluster level, which will go a long way in building the mental health of the students and making a safe, caring school system. On behalf of all the participants, I would like to thank our esteemed Additional Secretary, Ms. Changson. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us.
I would also like to thank ma'am and our director, sir, for the insightful sharing of insightful thoughts, the points which have been given, and from MANODARPAN cell and on behalf of the working group, I would like to make sure that these kind of activities which have been suggested, the vision with which we are moving ahead, I'm sure we would be able to take it to the grassroots level across the states. So before we start with the presentation on mental health survey and the handbook, I would just like to bring to the notice of the gathering here that the whole idea of sharing is that we would like to have discussions on the two documents, on the findings of the two documents, to really know what is the way forward. The discussions after the presentation on the survey, we would like the group to give ideas on what all can be done to take it forward and what is it that needs to be taken up by the schools and in which form. The ideas which we have, we would be sharing on a plan of taking the findings of the survey to the schools. About half an hour to 45 minute session on discussion and deliberation on the findings of the survey has been kept, followed by the presentation on the handbook on early identification. After the presentation, we would again have a discussion of about 45 minutes with the same objective that we really see how this reaches our students, our schools. So this is the broad idea and this is the broad plan with which the Ministry of Education and Ma'am Changson has visioned this orientation workshop, the orientation program, which we are organizing today. I think with this, we should start the presentation on mental health. Dr. Shukla.
The MANODARPAN cell at NCERT, under the initiative of the Ministry of Education, which comes under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, had undertaken a survey in 2022 to study the mental health of school students, which we will be presenting now to all our participants.
Yeah, sorry. We had earlier shared the mental health and well-being, the document, So maybe it would be right to move ahead, or should we go directly to the findings? Could we have a look at that mental health survey findings once again?
That highlight the
Okay.
question, I think
Okay,
that
ma'am.
would be
Okay.
great.
So we'll go directly to the highlights. We'll go to the survey highlights. Can you show this? Yes. Can we go to the first page of the mental health survey? Yeah. The mental health and well-being of school students, a survey. We are presenting the highlights, the key findings, and yes. Like I have spoken earlier, that mental health and well-being of students provide the foundational base for imparting holistic education and nurturing in students the qualities and life skills for their growth, self-preservation, and sustainable development is paramount. The survey was actually taken with this objective, that we explore what students think in terms of their mental health. The voices of students very important, and very and it has been observed in educational literature that very rarely we listen to the voices of students, and in their education, in their lives in school, this is very, very important. So keeping this in mind, the survey was taken up with the perspective, very clear understanding that it's going to give us some inputs on prevention and some inputs to intervene and handle the issues and concerns which emerge. This survey was taken up between January to March this year. And the aim of the survey is to gain an understanding of school students on different aspects of mental health and well-being. The process we followed was as intense and as rigor in terms of developing the tool, sharing the tool, and analysis of data. The tool was a self-report, and because it was COVID times, we shared the tool online. The questionnaire was shared online. The questionnaire was both in English and Hindi. And like any other, tool, we piloted the questionnaire, and it was shared with experts. Their inputs were taken on the survey tool, and after that, the piloting of this, it was shared with the schools, the central government and the state schools and the private schools across the country. With the support of Ministry of Education, it was possible for us to reach such large numbers, which we have been reporting, about 380,000. And I would like to share here that the schools, the organization, the administration, principals, they were so excited that their children filled this online questionnaire that we had to extend the date on their request. So, the involvement of the school was very evident in these requests. We see the strength of the tool in terms of it being totally a voluntary participation by the students. And if we look at the demographics, we can see that the whole country, if you really look at the map, you will see all the states, all the UTs, they participated. The students from all states and UTs were participants of this. The numbers across the states are also very clear here. आप इसको थोड़ा बड़ा कर सकते हैं participants के लिए, the map उसको. So this gives a very clear idea about the numbers. This survey was for classes 6th to 8th and for 9th to 12th. So both the middle and the secondary stages, which are there as per the policy, these were covered. A quick look at the respondents. Can I request the people who have joined us to kindly mute their mics? Thank you so much. If you look at the respondents, it gives an idea about, the number of and the type of schools. We had Kendra Vidyalayas, we had GNVs, we had state government schools, the private schools, Eklavya model schools, Scenic schools, and our own RI demonstration multi-purpose schools. Sir, can I request you to please mute your mics? May I request the participants, the officials who have joined, to kindly mute their mics? Thank you so much. So we had the students from National Institute of Open Schooling. We also had the Central Tibetan schools, the Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. The total numbers of these schools are there on the PPT. Govind, can you please go back? Yes, we can see the numbers with the type of schools and across the different stages. What was the percentage of students who participated in the survey? The analysis of the data, the survey focuses on the four types: the Kendriya Vidyalaya, the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, state government schools, and private schools. This is about 20% of the representation of the total data. We had our director and Ma'am Changson, additional secretary, mention about the different aspects of mental health and the domains. So keeping in view what the literature has talked about, the domains of mental health and well-being, the four domains formed the basis for development of items for this survey. The domains are there in front of you: the self, the emotional, the physical, and the cognitive. Each domain was divided into sub-aspects, and based on each aspect, the items were made, the items were shared with experts, they were finalized, piloted, translated, back-translated, tried out before the tool was finalized. So covering all the four domains, the survey has finalized the items. Can we go to, yeah. The various aspects on which the information is given in the mental health survey is: one is students' understanding of self. So students' perception of their personal self, of their social self, in regard to trusting others, responsibility for doing well in life, their body image, confidence, trustworthiness, peer pressure, peer relationships. They provide an information on the students' understanding of their own self. So self-awareness is something which is very important. And just now also, the director had also focused on, this aspect. The second is emotions experienced, the emotions and feelings experienced and expressed. A lot depends on emotional socialization. How a child expresses, whether the child is able to express or not, depends on the socialization pattern. This really speaks of the kind of context the child is in. So we have got a lot of ideas and we've got a lot of inputs on how, there are gender differences in expression and experience of emotion, which are in line with the researches which have been taken up by researchers in this area. The other aspects related in this category were the fears related to COVID-19. What were the feelings and emotions felt at that time? How the challenges were perceived. The third is related to focusing on how these were handled, the strategies for coping. How the regulation of emotions is taken up by the students, how it is perceived, what are the strategies they use, and number of strategies which they have talked of our self-reflection, yoga, meditation, and all. So the survey findings are presented in a manner that it gives us a complete understanding about their self, about their emotions, and their ways of handling. And of course, while these are discussed, the issues, the concerns are also very clearly evident in the findings. So now we will actually move ahead with the key findings on perceptions of students in relation to understanding of one's own
Recording
self,
in progress.
understanding of oneself in social context, and their perceptions on academics.
Thank you, ma'am. Taking forward the discussion on the survey, the aspect of adaptability, which is the ability to adapt to change in life, relationships, or environment, or how quickly an individual can do that, is an important skill in handling situations, in handling crises, and in handling and managing their relationships. It is also a factor that reflects upon the socio-emotional well-being. And 43% students reported saying that they can quickly adapt to changes. And in the school system, KVS students reported 40%, JNVs reported 48%, state governments reported 45%, and the private institutions reported the highest, which was 51%. The next aspect was trusting others, which is an aspect that helps an individual in relating with others, in forming social connections, in enhancing the quality of relationships, and making it an important social skill that gives a sense of self which is positive. And about 27% students reported that they had low trusting abilities. And amongst these, state government schools reported the highest, which was 34%. KVS reported 24%, JNV 29%, and private 18%. When asked about their perceptions on satisfaction with personal life, students perceive this as a connection with different aspects of their personal life. And nearly half of the participants responded that they are satisfied with their personal life. Then moving on to satisfaction with school life. Yes.
For the benefit of the listeners, I think it's important to bring in that adaptability, trusting others, satisfaction with personal life. These three things actually are the foundational, are the basis for development of a person's self and person's confidence in handling stressful situations. So, the findings actually are to be seen by us all in the education system in terms of what this would mean to the system and how we can build on from this understanding to take forward the work in the school in terms of planning some special programs, or, building a kind of a environment where the child develops the ability to trust, because trust as such would require a lot of, the total system as such in which the child is, whether it is the school, whether it is the peers, the neighbors, to provide a kind of interaction and a kind of environment where trust is developed. So this has implications for development of trust from this angle. Satisfaction with personal life, if we see it, it is a very, very important component. And to see that a little more than 50% have shown satisfaction with personal life actually has implications for their engagement with other aspects of their life and also the school life. So being satisfied, being happy, also this positive emotion also is linked to different stages of development. And we have seen that the details, if we see that this satisfaction actually is reported a little lower as they go from the middle to the secondary stage. Of course, the concerns of careers or the developmental changes which are taking place, there could be various reasons for that, but it is no doubt an important aspect. Yeah, we go and go to the next one.
Thank you, ma'am. We also saw the perceptions of students as far as satisfaction with their school life was concerned, because satisfaction with school life has a direct implication for their engagement with their academic activities. And the higher the school is able to engage the students, the possibility of better academic achievement is there. There is a likelihood of reduction in the dropout in schools, and also other malpractices such as drug or not having completed the complete years of school education. And when asked about this, most students perceived that their satisfaction with school life was 73%. And amongst these, state government school students responded the highest, with 79% saying that they are satisfied with their school lives, which shows that our school systems have been able to create an environment which gives them a sense of satisfaction, but there is still scope for a lot of other interventions which can bring about more engagement with academics and lesser dropouts. And moving on, responsibility of doing well in life was also explored through the survey. And when the students were asked how responsible they feel towards their own life, they reported a high sense of responsibility, and which showed that they have the ability to handle situations, and also perceived that they had control over their own success and failure, which is a very important aspect as far as mental health is concerned, because we in psychology have the locus of causality concept. Broadly, to just help understand, is that when the locus of causality is internal, that is, a person sees that whatever is happening because of something within him, or if the locus of causality is external, in which he or she perceives the cause of the happenings, the behaviors, the circumstances outside. This reflects upon their mental health, with locus of causality being internal as a better mental health reflection. And since students, 84% students have shown that they see the responsibility of doing well in life as their own, it shows an internal locus of causality, which is a good indicator and a motivation for all of us to keep working in the right direction. When looked at from the school perspectives, KVS have reported the highest, which is 87%, followed by JNVs, followed by state government schools, then private schools, and JNVs. Body image is seen as an important constituent of self. And if you would see, the sample is for 6 to 8 standard student and from 9 to 12 standard students, which is the adolescent age group, and therefore concerns about the way they look, how they are received in the social setups is becoming important for the child. We explored this also, and the self-worth of the students was directly linked to this, and 55% of the students reported that they are confident about their physical appearance, in which state government school students reported the highest confidence in their physical appearance. One needs to take note of the fact that when this dissatisfaction with their appearance kind of increases, it can have very harmful emotional, psychological, or physiological impacts, and directly impacts the confidence of the child in dealing with social situations, in dealing with personal decision making. And therefore, all of us as administrators and practitioners need to take account of these aspects in order to, like we say, that nothing is a standalone, it's all interlinked. And the more we take note of smaller things, the likelihood of having a better uniform result is higher. So, taking things forward on the survey front, perspective taking was also explored. Just for the benefit of the audience, perspective taking was an aspect that through Nishtha also in our models of personal social qualities that we had done our trainings in, we had focused on this aspect because we see that sometimes in our rush of the classroom practices and the administrative practices, we skip on certain smaller aspects like taking into consideration how the other person is thinking, how the child views the same situation, which might at times appear very simplistic to us as adults, as administrators. And therefore, we accounted for this also in our survey. This was largely projected as the ability to understand the point of view of the other person. So when the students were asked or to respond upon this, about 31% said that they could easily, take into account or the viewpoint of the person around them. Amongst these, state government and private schools reported 32% of students being able to take into consideration the other's point of view. KV reported 31% and JNV reported 28%. Now, like we were talking earlier on confidence in among students as being one important reflection and both a cause and symptom of mental health. When I say both cause and symptom of poor mental health or good mental health, what is implied here is that if a child is confident, he'll have more positive social experiences, more positive self, and therefore a better mental health. If the child does not have positive social experiences or has a poor sense of self, it is going to reflect in his or her confidence, and therefore the snowballing effect continues, and the confidence continues to reduce in the child, and which is seen as a symptom or a reflection of poor mental health. To measure the effect in children, hesitate in asking questions, and whether they have a difficulty in expressing themselves. And 28% responses were seen to indicate lack of confidence. And here the state government school students reported the highest percentage indicating lack of confidence, which was 31%. To explore the confidence of the child, we had yet another aspect to gauge it, and it was the difficulty they face in initiating a conversation. This was more on the social aspect, that when they meet up with new people or when they are in a social setting, how comfortable do they feel in initiating a conversation. And about 23% of the responses said that, they had a difficulty in initiating conversation, which showed that somewhere their confidence was not high and they perceived themselves as not being, efficient or strong enough to initiate a conversation. And amongst all schools, state government school students reported the highest, 29%. To take account of the social self, it was also explored from the students that how were they perceived by their immediate social group, and it was explored as to whether they were perceived as being happy. And 56% students reported that they were perceived as being happy by people in their life, the social setup in which they functioned. Now, this again was a very motivating indicator, because if you are being perceived as being happy, of course, this is a symptom that shows that your mental health is not poor and is in the right direction. Amongst the school types, again, different schools fared differently, with private schools showing 59% students reporting being perceived happy, KVS 58% reported being happy, state governments 57%, and JNVs 53%. So you see all of them are relatively close with a marginal difference in percentages. Another aspect that is considered important when talking about mental health, specifically in the context of the school-going children, is how they are being, viewed by the significant others. And when talking of the school, the most significant person, firstly, is the teacher and the school principal and the administrators. So we asked our students whether they are perceived as having the leadership qualities by their teachers. So belief of teachers in their students was reflected in this aspect. And this is important, as we all know, that Pygmalion effect, which was a path-breaking research, showed that how the teacher perceived and saw their children eventually resulted in the child just behaving in the same fashion. So once a teacher views a child positively, it is a sure indicator that the child will make efforts consciously, unconsciously to reach up to that mark. And if the teacher does not show faith and commitment in the child automatically, consciously or unconsciously slips in his performance to live up to that non-verbal or verbal communication that the teacher is making for the child. So 25% of the responses on this aspect showed that students believed that their teachers considered them capable of leading. Only 25% had this, understanding that the teacher really believed they could be leaders. So the important takeaway that we can have here is that teachers in their conversations, in their pedagogy, in their verbal and non-verbal communication, in the classroom and in the school premises, should be encouraging towards the child rather than, discouraging or, very neutral. Because the more positive, we in psychology also use the term positive strokes. The more positive strokes, the more positive encouragement, the more positive, faith you show in the child, the higher the likelihood of he or she feeling good about himself, and therefore putting efforts is guaranteed. Further, we also explored the aspect of trustworthiness, as this is also seen as an important contributor in the relationships that a child has, in the relationships the child builds and nurtures. And also, as I said, it is a reflection on the mental health of the child. So it was encouraging that 70% of the students reported that they were considered as trustworthy by others. So, which means that, they have a good self-esteem and a very positive approach towards their own self. And it is seen as a motivating factor for them to invest in relationships, to invest in building good interpersonal skills, communication skills, which are all contributory to mental health. When looking from the school perspective, again, we see that there are only marginal differences among different school types. KVS has shown that 73% students consider themselves trustworthy, JNV 65%, state government 72%, and private schools 74%. Another important aspect which has been reported by counselors, researchers, and other even our newspaper reports have shown that peer pressure and influence is a very important aspect in determining right from whether the child goes to the school to how the child performs in school and after. So this aspect was also explored, but one thing that I need and would want to point out here is that peer pressure necessarily is not negative. Peer pressure can also be positive to the extent that if the peer group is exerting a pressure towards positive self-building, positive habits, positive direction, it does have positive impacts also. But largely it is the negative that is reported. So when we took a very neutral stand in asking whether you succumb to peer pressure or you go by what your friends tell you, and the students reported around 33% that they try to please their friends and their peer group. And JNV students showed the highest percentage of succumbing to this peer influence, which was 39%, which could be attributed to the fact that it's a residential setup and peer group is the only group they have. Showed 30, state government showed 30% and private showed 28% students saying that they try to please their friends or succumb to peer influence. Now, as researchers have also, explored the linkages between self-efficacy and or the sense of self-sufficiency and mental health, we had included this aspect in our research, and we explored how students felt about their capacity in handling or achieving outcomes in their lives. This was specially considered important because once a child feels he or she can handle the situation, the entire approach towards problem solving changes. And once the self is empowered and viewed positively and as a strength, definitely it is a big resource that the child can draw upon in difficult circumstances. 36% students reported that they are able to manage themselves during stressful situation. This was a relatively lower number of students, so this has implications for us as administrators, as practitioners, to build in an environment where we strengthen the self. We enforce upon the students that they are capable, they are, have the skills necessary, and if possible, we should also nurture skills that build confidence in themselves and give them that sense of efficacy to deal with situations. The different school systems have reported relatively, marginal differences on this aspect, as you can see on the right of the slide. We also explored the academic perceptions of students because this was also considered important in understanding how as a student, the child felt happy or content or capable, having the skills of dealing with the school stresses. Lack of confidence was one aspect on this, and when asked, the students, about 29% of them said that the reason for lack of concentration in studies, lack of academic performance, was their inability to concentrate or the lack of concentration that they had. And JNV students responded highest on this, 30%. However, the other schools only show marginal differences, as you can see on the right. Again, another aspect linked to teacher and mental health of the child is teacher's attention, which again is well-researched, well-reported aspect in the form of the Pygmalion effect, which is very well known to all teachers. So not elaborating upon that, teacher attention was one aspect that we explored through the survey, and we asked our respondents to tell us how they perceived when the teacher was inattentive or was not paying enough attention to them. And about 37% responses were received, which said that when the teacher did not pay attention to them, it sometimes bothered them, which clearly shows that, students do take note of the fact that, the teacher is, verbally or non-verbally not attending to them, not, viewing them positively or not, encouraging them. So we as a system need to work on this aspect also, because teacher, as I said, is an important, significant other as far as the students are concerned. And the teachers, administrators, in the small everyday nuances of interacting, as we have been talking at several forums, the school ethos should be such that every child feels wanted, cared for, attended to, which will go a long way in creating a positive mental health. On this parameters, JNVs and private schools showed exact same percentages, which is 38%, followed by KVs 35%, and state government students showed 12%. of them being bothered by the inattention of the teacher. Now, one important aspect or the takeaway from this survey was that the anxiety related to academics. We gave them several options of, what is the most anxiety provoking situations, whether it is studies, whether it is examination or results, whether they don't feel anxious at all, whether it is the reopening of schools, whether it is college admissions or career. And we found that studies was the most responded to as the reason for anxiety, which is 50%, followed by examinations and results, which is 31%. So taken together, it accounts for a good 80%, and which is the highest equally distributed with few percentage point differences across the different school systems. And therefore, as administrators, we have been making efforts towards reducing this anxiety, but probably much more needs to be done. And it has to be done not just at the helm of affairs, like the NEP has proposed several strategies and has taken this as a very important agenda to be achieved through the NEP 2020. NCERT has been working towards this through different forums and different policy level affairs, but still, as the survey shows, it is still very high and needs our attention to ensure that our students are mentally healthy, not just throughout the year, but also during the critical time of the examinations. Our Honorable Prime Modi ji has also been very conscious, very sensitive towards this aspect. He has held Pariksha Pe Charcha. He has been talking to students through Man Ki Baat, and has been encouraging and telling them that examination should be a joyous event in life and not one full of stress. So let's take this forward as administrators and practitioners. Lastly, on this aspect of self, when we were talking, we also explored what was it that the students felt during online learning. And they expressed, that social interactions were one thing that they missed a lot. And lack of social interaction was reported by 39% of the students. Because of online classes, they reported that lack of social interaction is one factor that has been bothering them. On this aspect, private school students reported 53%, which was highest, and followed by KVS, JNV, and state government school students. Thank you. I would request Dr. Chakravarti to please take forward the findings of the survey further. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. So, taking forward the sharings so far from the mental health survey, I would like to now experienced by the students in their everyday life, and also during the COVID times, was one thing that we tried to gather from in our survey. And to begin with, the what we tried to explore is what was it, or how did they feel in most of the times during in their everyday life. And very clearly and promisingly that has come up is that most of the students expressed that they felt happy. So the emotion that they experienced most of the times was of happiness, which was followed by anxiousness. And as you can see on the screen, happiness was responded by 67% of students, while anxiousness followed after that, as 11% of students said. Across the different feelings and emotions that we had asked them for, these two found the most prominent place. And it is very promising, as well as aspect that we need to take account of, is that number one, the proactive part of students feeling happy. And the other is that also about anxiousness. Now, as my colleague, Dr. Shukla mentioned, that there was a lot of anxiety related to academics that was felt. So we can see that, while happiness was experienced by largely almost similar percentages there across the different school systems, anxiety also was almost of the same pattern. Now, if I move up to the next component that is also very encouraging again, is that when inquired as to how, what do you feel when you are experiencing stressful situations, the respondents, students mentioned that they feel hopeful. They do not break up. They do not lose hope. So this, again, for us as people in the school ecosystem, is an important indicator that despite different stressful situations coming across their lives and experiences in their everyday life, they still do not lose hope, and they are ready to, explore different avenues so that they can overcome such stressful situations. So 39% of the respondents shared that they do not lose hope when they are in stressful situation. To this, I will further add that in the beginning we said that about adaptability. So if there is hope, there is also chance of them adapting to the different situations that are coming up. So these again point out to the potential that is there in our students, which we as teachers, as administrators, as caregivers can bank upon and can further build up to help our students to deal with different stressful situations in their life. The other thing, when we talk about emotions, researchers have also been talking largely about emotions, managing of emotions, or emotional regulations. About emotional regulation, the first step towards it is about understanding of emotions. So we explored with our students as to how far they feel, or they perceive that they are able to understand their emotions, and they're also able to understand others' emotions. And this is again a very promising response that we found, that large number of students responded that able to appropriately understand their own emotional experience, but they can also understand others' emotions, which is, we can say that the base on which their mental health and well-being can be further built up, strengthened. If we can see in the different school systems, it is nice to note that the state government, respondents from the state government and from JNV were largely more responded on this. However, almost all the school systems responded with marginal difference on this. With these promising aspects, I will now take you all forward to experiencing or sharing about some of the commonly felt feelings, is that about which they experienced in their everyday life, particularly during the COVID times. We all know that COVID times had demanded a sudden change to a lot many things in their personal life, in their school life, in their social life. Not only the students, but also the adults, the teachers, parents, community, everybody were going through different challenging situations. So keeping that in the context, we wanted to explore as to what were the kind of experiences that they felt. And the data showed that majority of the students felt tired and low on energy, followed by feeling tearfulness, feeling like, sorry or not being able to cope with things, and of course, feeling of loneliness. This is an important indicator that when in crisis, students did feel about feeling loneliness and be connected. Responded that they do take good care of their own selves. And also keeping in cognizance that they have a good understanding or acceptance about their body image. This combined factor is an indicator for us in the school ecosystem that the students do have a high self-worth about their physical self, including their taking responsibility of their own life and their own satisfaction as well. As you can see on the right side of the slide, across the different school systems, again, the respondents were almost of the same percentage with very minor differences. So having experienced from the students about different aspects of their life, another aspect which was explored along with them was what were the kind of support system that they desired while they were under different stressful situations for managing these emotional upheavals. It is interesting and important for us to note that more than 47% of the students desired that they had help from their friends, parents, and teachers. Now, this has a very important repercussion for us in the school system because primarily they are the ones with whom the students have been interacting and they are in their close vicinity. So when they seek for support from these people, it is important in our future collaborations, in our future efforts that we build up the capacity of our teachers, of our parents, and also probably focus largely on developing the capacity of peers to extend support to the students so that they are available with such support system in dealing with their feelings and emotions. I would now like to request Dr. Shukla to take over.
Thank you. Taking it forward, since this survey had been conducted in 2022, which was, a phase where the COVID had not totally gone and people were still anxious, reviving, and the school system was not back to its normal self. We explored aspects on COVID-19 also. And since routine is seen as the most important reflection of a child's or an individual's mental well-being, we asked the students to report whether there were any changes in their routine during COVID-19. And 38% of the students said that there had been changes in the patterns of sleep. And as you would see that private and KV schools reported nearly the same percentages of students reporting sleep pattern changes. JNVs and state governments were nearly the same. And sleep pattern changes, of course, it's a change on one aspect of the routine, but nevertheless, sleep, as all of us know, is an important determinant of setting the tone for the next day or for the days to follow, and has an important implications for our moods, for our body clock. And therefore, as schools have opened, children are facing problems in getting back to their routine. And this needs to be taken into cognizance by the administrators. For example, we might consider not being so strict with, reporting dot on time on reaching school for the first few months that we had after COVID, which I'm sure, we had considered while reopening schools. Another issue was of, facing different changes or issues at home during COVID-19, because all family members were locked down, working from home, somehow managing to, keep the normalcy of the situation as far as possible. And students did report a lot of aspects that, they observed that changes in the home front. But the highest reported or perceived aspect was emotional changes in the way the family members behaved. 24% of the responses were received for this aspect, which shows that it was not just the children, but also the families who were unable to manage the emotional baggage of a pandemic, of the change in circumstances, of the fear of death, which continuously impacted their behaviors. And with the behavior of family members having been changed on an emotional front, the children also must be having a tough time coping with this change. So this also is an important reflection, an important ground on which our system needs to build up and show its sensitivity towards. On the right side are percentages across different school systems, which are nearly the same with the difference of 1 or 2 percentages. We also ask students, because mental health is also measured when we ask, do you have frequent headaches? Do you feel feverish? Do you feel low on energy? And such things are seen as symptoms of poor mental health. So we also explored any physical symptoms that the child has been experiencing over the last few months and years. Most students reported that, that they experienced frequent headaches and stomach aches. When asked whether they had related illnesses, they said no. So headaches and stomachache can be related to mental health issues, though the percentage is very less, 18% and 16% respectively. But these are indicators of mental health and wellness and need to be taken into cognizance by us as practitioners and administrators. Again, there's not much difference across school systems. Therefore, most children, most students have faced this. Moving forward, we also have explored on the emotional front the intensity of emotions experienced, because intensity is also considered an important aspect in understanding and measuring mental health. And so when asked, about 43% responses were received for mood swings. Students reported that intense mood swings were experienced by them. And this, of course, needs to be taken cognizance of, because mood swings are a reflection of mental well-being. Responses on stressful situation, when explored among students of this age bracket, 32% showed that stressful situations like bullying, they could respond appropriately and give socially acceptable and appropriate response rather than a knee-jerk response. And across school systems, this largely seems to be around the same percentages. Support on managing emotions was another important aspect that determined how the children handled their mental health issues. So trying to see what kind of support they had available around them during this difficult period. Students on given various options, 39% responded that sharing with friends was the way they managed their emotion when they were stressed. Which is a good number. Friends happen, peer groups, since as stated earlier, during this age bracket of standard 6 to 12, students are in the adolescent phase and therefore bank more on their friends. Peer group is an important influencer. Therefore, social support was also explored since they were at home and friends were not so available at that time. So when exploring social support, about 58% responses were received across different school systems that strong social support can be sought to help them. And they said that they did not always had that, strong support to handle their emotions. So like the NEP 2020 proposes that the availability of a counselor or a social worker should be a must. I think that's a well-placed idea given this finding. Difficulties faced in online learnings were also explored. And the maximum 51% responses were given for difficulty in learning online content. As we all know, not just the students, the teachers, the families, all were facing difficulties switching from this mode from face-to-face learning practices to online learning practices. And therefore, this high percentage of 51 in difficulty in learning content is well understood. There weren't very major differences among school systems on this aspect too. When asked about commonly used strategies for coping, they were given options of the practice of yoga and meditation, changing how they think and feel, writing journals, ignoring their feelings, and watching TV. Most students responded by saying that they practiced yoga and meditation and changing how they think, which are two very constructive practices in coping and therefore reflect on a good mental health among students on these aspects.
We have briefly tried to present the findings of the research, although it was a huge research which had at length studied the various aspects, tried to give in nutshell whatever one could in this short time. A very quick look at the overall findings. You see the different aspects which we have talked of, and the percentage of students' responses at different stages and gender-wise. Not taking much time, I would just like to go on to that. If we look at the findings, we see the responses on protective factors for mental well-being actually can be seen in terms of responsibility for doing well in life, experiencing satisfaction with school life, considering themselves as trustworthy, support from friends, parents, and resolving themselves. Aspects like changing thought process is a very, although it's not mentioned by too many people, but it is something which is a very good basis of self-reflection, which also is the basis of experiential learning, which the policy has talked about. So even though the percentages are small, but it's a very good insight which we have got, that there are children who practice self-reflection, and it is a very big strength we need to see in children. Of course, practicing yoga and meditation are seen as coping strategies. So stilling of the mind is also something the children have practiced, and they would want to take this forward. The concerning trends are anxiety felt among students with regard to studies, examination, and the results. This is something the ministry also has been highlighting time and again, that in spite of making efforts of all kinds, and especially after the policy has talked about holistic learning, a holistic progress card, carry forward the grades and so on. We are hoping that this anxiety or this concern which is observed in the survey is attended to. Of course, frequent mood swings is something which also is a very concerning trend. The report talks at length about, how across stages it varies, across gender it varies, and the details are there in the report. What I would like to highlight here is that although we have talked about our findings in terms of percentages, and we are talking about mental health and well-being, what is important is to put forth here is that every child is important. Even a single instance or a single child who's reporting something negative, who's reporting something as a concern, is of value to us as educators. So that is something we need to see. Of course, we do see general trends in percentages. We do get an idea about what is the general population feeling and how the schools can, plan programs, act upon, to handle these concerns. But I would really like to highlight here that personal social reality cannot be depicted in statistical terms. It is a very qualitative, it is a very personal, it is a very effective concern. So merely seeing percentages would not be right, would not be correct, and would not be justified. For us, every child and every single concern of every child is important. I would like to very briefly conclude our presentation before we go on to having a discussion on this, and look forward to your suggestions. Is what are the implications of the findings of mental health survey? The very first, we see that school administrators in their prime position should lead a systemic change. The whole system has to respond to mental health, to support the well-being of students. And the system should focus on the strengths, and it should plan programs, it should create conditions in the whole school of the kind which are conducive for the development of mental health and well-being. So what we are trying to say is that schools need to be prepared. That is, as a whole, the whole school approach is something which we would want mental health and well-being to be taken forward in. And of course, the policy also is talking about mental health and well-being in a very integrative manner. So an integrative approach to mental health and well-being through a whole school approach is what we are looking forward to reach to the block and the cluster at all levels right up to the school. The second, of course, is, that we need to integrate mental health and well-being concerns in terms of psycho-emotional, psychosocial concerns of students, which are developmentally suited, appropriate at different stages of education. And of course, I think in our earlier discussion in our conferences, I've been talking about that these need to be thought of, as to be presented in a spiral form. What exists at one stage does not get over at that stage, At the next stage, we have to build on the learning, personal social aspects, learning, development on these aspects, and we have to carry forward them from the previous stage to the next stage. So a spiral approach, a developmentally integrated whole school spiral approach is something which we should work towards in the school curriculum. And NCERT already in its attempts towards developing the National Curriculum Framework and in its various position papers have tried to make attempts towards this. Strengthening of teachers is very important for supporting students' mental and emotional well-being. And time and again, it has been said that teacher as the first level counselor or training all teachers as first level counselors is very, very important. as Ma'am Changson had mentioned, that through Nishta we had made similar attempts, and a new module will also be developed. But already we are talking of personal social qualities in one of the modules which is developed for training of teachers, and the lakhs of teachers in the last 4-5 years who have been trained have already undertaken the module on personal social qualities. Still, the strengthening of training of teachers is something we all need to look at our level. Assessment being another very important aspect. We have often heard, if assessment doesn't change, then nothing will change. And I think that is why the policy is talking of holistic progress card. It talks about 360-degree assessment. And the whole idea is that if we move ahead with a holistic progress card in schools, we would like to put forward that appraisal of teachers should also be of the kind. The teachers in school should not be appraised only for the kind of marks students are getting, the kind of results that students are showing. And it is also important the kind of, person or the kind of student they are trying to make. And this should become part of their appraisal performers. All I'm trying to say is that effective aspects are part of holistic progress card for students. So should these be for teachers. Time and again, the ministry has also talked about a common minimum mental wellness plan, a plan which can be taken forward to all types of schools in terms of what is the minimal a school needs to do for for the mental wellness, for the mental well-being of the students. So from our side, we would look forward to the August gathering, the officials we have from various levels of our education system to give us inputs related to how the findings of the survey need to be taken up, and what is it that they would want us to do to strengthen the school systems. I request with this we end the mental health survey presentation. I hope we have done justice to the marathon task which was taken up and which was put up as the survey findings. But of course, you can all go on the website, ministry's website or the NCERT website, and have a look at the survey findings in detail. So thank you so much. And without wasting time, I would just request everyone to come in and have a discussion on the findings of the mental health. And now the forum is open for discussion. The participants can raise their hands or they can unmute themselves and share their thoughts or share their points or suggestions or any remarks they would like to make.
A very good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon. Yes,
this is from DRT Meghalaya, Caroline Karmalki, a faculty from the Guidance and Counseling Unit. Ma'am, just would like to seek your permission. In fact, congratulate for the survey. It was intense, in fact. But for pertaining specifically to the state of Meghalaya, because as per the survey that has been shared, we would like to request you, if at all, because what is reflected there for the state is just in one section. That is the total number of participants, in fact, that had took part in the survey. So for further interventions, if more data can be shared so that we can take up with the state of Meghalaya, is it possible, ma'am? Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Actually, the data was so huge and we had to compile the findings. So, you know what, basically the findings are for those 4 schools, like I said, 20% and above. And it has been, an overall view has been given. And the stage-wise findings have been shared, and also gender-wise. But of course, for your region, we do have, and maybe with time we could bring out, small reports or some findings the way you want it, or else we can share it with Neeri Shillong. You are our sister concern, so of course we can share that for taking it forward, definitely.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
May I request people from the state, from the diets, DRCs, CRCs, education officers, to please come in and since it's a big number which has gathered here, maybe you could unmute and just share your remarks, suggestions.
Hello, namaste, madam.
Namaskar.
We are from DSCRT Karnataka. So it was a wonderful presentation. So we have got a good information regarding student mental health and issues. So what are the other programs it is going to be initiated by CIET regarding taking care of the student mental health, madam, other than providing ISTA program?
Okay. DSC Karnataka is a place where at least us from the psychology department have done a lot of programs, and we have got a very good response from your place always. In regard to the question, Nishtha is something which is being proposed by the ministry. So first and foremost, we'll do that. And I've already mentioned that in earlier Nishtha programs, we were talking about personal social qualities, developing those aspects in teachers, which we are looking for in our children, So one attempt has already been made. This will be more specific one. And of course, when the modules are developed, they are offered by CIT. And through our Department of Curriculum Studies, definitely CIT will be sharing, will be telecasting, depending on the need and requirement of the states. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we have the other states? Yes, please. Good afternoon.
Ma'am, good afternoon. It's Takdeer Singh from Diet Panipat, ma'am.
Welcome.
I think, ma'am, each and every information is deliberated very nicely. Basically, ma'am, my question is about teacher training. Ma'am, I think this is a good or very nice initiative. Basically, teacher training के दौरान भी अगर हम इस प्रकार की ये सारी चीजें incorporate कर दें, collaborated कर दें, तो I think that will be beneficial to the students also. Like school health program that is initiated by NCERT few days before. तो मैम अगर इस प्रकार की सारी चीजें टीचर ट्रेनिंग के दौरान, जैसे टीचर अप्रेजल भी हमने बोला है इसमें कि हम लोग टीचर अप्रेजल करेंगे, तो टीचर्स की ट्रेनिंग के दौरान भी अगर ये सारे एस्पेक्ट्स हम लोग एक स्पेसिफिक रख दें कि भाई आपको उस समय पे टीचर ट्रेनिंग के दौरान भी, या प्री टीचर सर्विस टीचर ट्रेनिंग जब हम लोग देते हैं, तो ये सारे एस्पेक्ट्स अगर हम वहाँ पर करें तो आई थिंक बहुत बेनिफिशियल रहेगा. क्योंकि मैम हम सभी लोग जानते हैं कि मेंटल एक्सपर्ट्स का एक्चुअली हमारे पास इतनी स्ट्रेंथ नहीं है, कि एक्सपर्ट्स नहीं है कि हम लोग ये सारे डिसेमिनेट कर पाएंगे पूरे देश में. तो मेरा सजेशन है मैम, ये एक हम्बल सबमिशन मैं कहूँगा, सजेशन तो नहीं कहूँगा कि
थैंक यू सो मच सर. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I think the plan of the policy and the plan with which we are moving, हम उसको plan भी उसी तरह कर रहे हैं कि टीचर एजुकेशन के करिकुलम में थ्रू NCT एंड हमारे सारे इन सर्विस प्रोग्राम्स में मेंटल हेल्थ एंड वेलबींग एक इम्पॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट बने. सो जो आपकी सजेशन है वो हम उसको आगे लेके भी जाएंगे और हमने नोट भी कर लिया. एंड डेफिनेटली दैट इज द प्लान विद विच वी विल मूव अहेड.
Hi, ma'am.
Just a second to add on to it. Very rightly pointed out, sir, that teachers training to include about the strengthening of mental health. But here also it is important for us in the such training programs that we also help the teachers to strengthen their own mental health. So that when a happy teacher will also enter the classroom with a happy mind, and then also it gets repercussions into the student's mind. So the teacher training will also target promoting mental health and well-being amongst the teachers. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can we have the next one? Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Please share kariye. I had heard somebody. Yes, please.
Yes, actually, I'm sharing from Kerala. Actually, this presentation
May I request others to please mute themselves? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
No, मैं नहीं चल रहा हूँ उसके साथ
Hello.
Ma'am, please continue. Ab share kariye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing from Kerala.
Okay.
And this presentation is very much nice and informative. Ma'am, please include training program.
I would
for
interact
teachers
with them.
also. Because teachers want get an awareness about the mental health of students. Then only we can share to our students. Okay. So please include
Okay.
activities for teachers also. Then only.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a very relevant suggestion, because when we hold programs for in Nishta for teachers, we do have experiential exercises, we do have experiential activities, and your point is very well noted. We will include these activities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Can we have the next one, please? Yeah.
This is Sudha from Andhra Pradesh. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, Sudhaji.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yeah, we are also very much interested, and we are waiting for this program actually. Madam, can we plan teacher trainings in our regional language? Because most of the teachers can get good understanding about this concept in their mother tongue. In regional languages, can we train the teachers in regional languages? We are SCRTs are ready to develop content or translate the content into regional language.
My colleague also would like to come in on this. Actually, we do develop our material in English and Hindi as exemplars, and even the NIST programs had got translated in regional languages. So the state has, education being a state subject, I'm sure the state has full freedom to translate and conduct them, and definitely, like you said, that teachers would find it more meaningful.
Yes, madam.
Yes, and I think my colleague wants to add something. Yeah.
And one more thing is, can we have these tele-counseling services in regional languages also? Because students are unable to connect to that. That computer is asking them to, giving them only two choice, English and Hindi. But
Sudhaji, I think, Sudha ma'am, I think you have raised a very, very important and valid point. The initial call makes them connect only in English and Hindi, though keeping in view that the requirement could be in regional language. We do have people from different states as part of the team who are attending to the calls of the students. But I think this is something very important you have brought to our notice, that in the first instance also, only if the student is not able to, kind of connect to the system, and then I think most of the effort is lost from our side. It's a very valid point. We're going to take up with our Joint Director CIT, Professor Behra, and let's see how we can, come to a solution.
Yeah, we are promoting that toll-free number, but the students are getting demotivated as they are not, the other person is not responding in their mother tongue. They get somehow they're dropping. That's why. So
Actually, ma'am, the IVRS is connected in such a way that if the call comes from Andhra, then those counselors who are from Andhra, the call will be diverted to them only. It is only in the beginning, welcome to IVRS, welcome to MANODARPAN. Those sentences are in English and Hindi. I'm only talking about those two things. Otherwise, the call goes to the regional counselor only. I mean, I could get it further checked up. Dr. Shukla is adding to this.
Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
I'm from Shalkaram from Bidar, Karnataka state.
Good afternoon, sir.
So, madam, my one submission is to you. So when we are attended so many workshops, seminars, and Zoom meet training, so we want my little submission and request is to give a certificate to trainee teachers, no madam, who is attended to this webinar.
Okay, fine. We've noted this. All right. We've noted this, and we'll see how we'll have a discussion with this with Changsan ma'am in the ministry and see how we can take it forward.
So why means, madam, this is the all India level training to all the block inclusive education resource teachers. So this helps to identify the trained teacher who is attended the training and who is having this type of skill to handle the mental illness students. It is the administration and department will easily knows and access the teachers to interest this type of counseling to students easy, madam.
Yeah, sir, your point is very well taken. We totally understand your concern. In the training programs, the certificates are always issued, So this is just a first level orientation, advocacy, a sharing of, broad findings of the survey and the other handbook. So whenever there is a training program held by NCERT, we do give certificates, and very soon we are planning to organize training programs in this area. And as you have said, the teachers would be given certificates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam.
Can we have the next one, please? Yes, sir. Yes.
Madam, one thing, another. Already we are attended the webinar training, sign language and hearing to hearing impaired students. So that certificate also that training also conducted by the this Ministry of School Education, but that certificate also is not. Therefore,
sir, I'll get in touch. I'll get in touch with Dr. Bhera and Dr. Bharti Kaushik, and I'm sure they will get back to you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much. Can I have the next one, please, very quickly, because we have got one more presentation. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hanji, please.
Good afternoon,
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm Anugya Panuli from SCRT Uttarakhand. Ma'am, the session was very informative and very nice. Ma'am, one humble request to you.
Can I have the next one, please, very quickly, because we have got one more presentation. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, am I audible, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Anugya.
Ma'am, can we have one person speaking? I request only one person. We'll have two more observations and then we'll move on to the second presentation. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Anugya Panuli from SCRT Uttarakhand, ma'am. My humble request is that, ma'am, kindly organize capacity building program in mental and emotional well-being for DIET and SCRT faculty also, ma'am.
Sure. I think that's the plan with which we are also going to move ahead. Thank you so much. And one last observation. Can we have that?
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Sushil from JKSCRT, Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and survey, ma'am. This is the question to Dr. Yadav. As At the start of the presentation, our worthy director quoted about Patanjali comprehensive definition of health. Ma'am, please can Dr. Yadav made it clear about the dichotomy of how to proceed further in our mental health issues, because as
I think, sir, you are mentioning to our director, who's
right.
Dr. Dinesh Prasad Saklani. I think maybe you got the name wrong. Yeah. So I think your point has been noted, and we can have further directions, further discussions with the director. And I'm sure in the forthcoming interactions with you and the states, we will be able to, have
only
a clear
one
cut.
commission to make, ma'am. Only one
Yes,
commission.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, what is the way forward? If you are looking towards our traditional system of psychology, which was psychosynthesis, taking everything on board, and Western School of Psychology is psychoanalysis. So what the director was quoting about Vasudev Kutumbakam, taking everything on board, but because of falling joint family system, everything or even nation is relying on education system. All are saying towards schools, towards teachers, towards administrators that they are the sole magic wand for everything. Whether it be academics, whether it be mental health, whether it be everything. But don't you think, ma'am, everywhere media is posing about individual rights, individual liberty, individual freedom, and we as a school pose students about being a role model by teachers? My humble submission, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the points raised are quite debatable, and we could always discuss this at a later time. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I think if everyone permits me.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon,
sir, can I make a humble request to you? Can you send in your observations to us at our email, because we have got another presentation, and the presenter is waiting, and so could you, because in your letters you have my mobile number, you have the email ID. Otherwise, we'll share the email ID on the screen also, and you can send us your observations. That would be of great benefit, because it's already very late, and I think our second presenter is waiting, and we are not being fair to him also. Is that okay? Yeah. So thank you so much, and I can see very eager participation, sharing of ideas from people across the states, across diets, other organizations who have joined us. I would have loved to spend another half an hour or so on this discussion, but since Dr. Nagpal is waiting for the presentation on the handbook on early identification, I would request all of you to please email us your suggestions on mental health survey. The email is, can we share the email, please? Can we share the email? Yeah, you can have a look at the screens and note down. The email is MANODARPAN at gmail.com. At gmail.com. NCERT name? MANODARPAN at gmail.com. It's a very simple, straightforward. And in the letters, my mobile is there. If you want to contact me, you can contact me. You want to send me a WhatsApp message, kindly feel free to send the WhatsApp message. Even the NCERT website has the MANODARPAN details. You can, through those details, you can contact us and be in touch with us. So I think everybody can see the emails. Kindly note them. We will really look forward to your suggestions and inputs. With this, the first presentation.
Mobile number also, ma'am. Please share. Tell your mobile number also.
9868 11 2911.
Okay, thank you.
It is in 9868112911. It is also written in the ministry letter which has gone to you all.
Sure.
And now I invite Dr. Jitendra Nagpal, who is a senior psychiatrist. And firstly, I would like to apologize for the little delay which has taken place, about 15-20 minutes for your presentation. Dr. Nagpal and his team has worked on a handbook of early identification and intervention. And I request Dr. Nagpal to share the details of the handbook. And after that, we can have a discussion on the handbook itself. So, Dr. Nagpal, welcome to this. You are very much part of today's program, but still a very warm welcome to you. And do you want us to share, or would you be sharing your slides?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Anju ma'am. I'll share from here in case any technical difficulty. I've sent the PPT already. We can certainly see.
Fine. Okay. Okay, fine. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Very good afternoon and namaskar to all the honorable dignitaries from across the country. It is so amusing and so fascinating to see top level dignitaries and officers from SCRTs, DOAs, diets, and many stakeholders who are going to define the education of our next 50-100 years. It is so interesting to see your participation, your queries, and I'm once again motivated. हमारा प्रोत्साहन और बढ़ जाता है आपको सुनकर that we all are partners in action for a common entity, the Indian children. But अभी बहुत अच्छा लगा डॉक्टर सकलानी को सुनकर. Madam Changson also brought very close the diversity and the dichotomy between mental illness and mental wellness and mental health. So what do we learn so far? The mental health survey has been an excellent journey forward to once again take on another approach from the educational viewpoint, what kind of mental health perceptions, difficulties children are going through. And it has been a remarkable step forward in the history of Indian mental health surveys. So congratulations to all the working teams, MANODARPAN Cell, the Ministry of Education. Being part of the same family, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, with Honorable Additional Secretary ma'am being here, I remember the day when the discussion was on how to and what to give the name to this whole entity. And actually we have been last 2.5 hours discussing MANODARPAN, isn't it? The journey within, the journey to discover the infinite potential of a child, the journey to help a fulfilling, rewarding, confident sociability of a child. To me, as a mental health professional and being part of the whole journey in the process of evolving MANODARPAN, has been that we need to look at life from the view of a child and the adolescent. And that's why we are all here today. Once again, we are reinforcing that idea, maybe in a stronger way for many things to come, isn't it? And precisely that I'll be focusing. I guess, indeed, we are running late, but yes, we'll try to consolidate within about 30 minutes. And please make it interactive subsequently, because the learnings that come from you, I'll run through the whole idea about what has generated India's approach to understanding mental health in schools. And what has been MANODARPAN's view, Madam has already very finely, eloquently defined since morning. Well, the process of bringing in something that has been in discussion for so many years, more than 20 years, we are talking about mental health in schools, I remember. And I think once the evolving idea about mental health and well-being in schools comes more firmly, COVID-19 only facilitates the fact that, yes, now pick up the baton and do something about it very strongly. The new hope and the new understanding will be something what we owe it to the children now. We owe the world back to them. We only borrow it from them. This is what Mahatma Gandhi told us. Are we ready to do that? Are we ready to give the world back of a smiling society, a smiling family to the smiling child? Well, the process has already been shared with you. You have already been talking about it. And it's so wonderful that such a diversity, nowhere in the world is such a diversity. When we hear Sudha ma'am telling from Andhra Pradesh that why not in regional languages? Excellent. And Taqdeer Saab from Diet Panipat, the way he has portrayed the whole process. Thank you, sir. And Sushil ji from JNK. I think your ideas are so wonderful that we need to interact much more, I would say very frequently and intensively, to bring about that same diversity in the eyes of a child, isn't it? All of you are familiar with what Sri Narendra Modi, Honorable Prime Minister of India, has been doing for children over the last few years. Just think about it. Honorable Prime Minister has been the best counselor for the country. He has reached out to millions of children to his program, Pariksha Pe Charcha, during Pariksha Parv, and this wonderful book, Exam Warriors. I can confidently say that it's a book on mental health. And look at the line mentioned in that as a preface. Be it the role of technology within the families, the importance of encouraging, enabling children, but mental health is the forefront. So it is not about what we are doing, what you are doing, what parents are doing. It is the head of the country. It is the head of the country talking the language that every 1.3 plus billion people need to talk about it. We are running late. We are running late as a nation for mental health. We are having stigma, the stereotypes, the ignorance, the prejudice, the discrimination. These are bigger illnesses than mental illness. And none other than children are the beneficiary of this, unfortunately. My peer bullies me sitting next to me. I get threatened by my friend. I get rejected from my gang. I never wanted to do that, but I was pushed into it. When we talk about highest drug abuse, probably amongst the nations in the world today, the Indian adolescent and youth. Prejudice, always negating, many times, my friends, prejudge, be judgmental, whether I can share my difficulties. आप जरा सोचिए, common myths क्या हैं? What are the common myths? When we talk about mind, mental health and behavior, Chanson ma'am said very nicely that we need to go from the telescope, narrow outlook of illness, problems, difficulties, and look at the larger world where we can prevent these. I'm coming to that, and already the data has been shared by the Mental Health Survey. But what all a wonderful nation India has contributed to research in the last 10 years, we'll just share. Because that's exactly where we begin the story of teacher training and stakeholders. And stakeholders, Sushil Saab, Taqdeer Saab and Sudhaji, is not teacher training only. It is orientation, involvement, empowerment and awareness building for each family that represents a child in the school. If I have 1,000 children in my school, I am the transformer as a principal to 4,000 citizens. That's how the crusaders will rise. It might sound a little ideal to you, but this is the way successful nations have promoted, responded to the need of the hour. We'll go to the next. And please, you should give your opinion because that's how the beginning of advocacy in this training starts. The module was made for that. We have the reference points here. Nothing less than the New Education, National Education Policy 2020 completely encompasses the view of life. I would say the view of life, not just academics, schooling, or mental health and social emotional learnings. It takes a new view of life itself because it is not meant for children alone. It's meant for every family. It's meant for every citizen because education is not ending in school. It's not ending in college. It's a lifelong learning with whatever skills we may adopt. This side, the school safety and security guidelines coming simultaneously spoke about mental health as a safety measure, a child rights measure, as a social legal measure. Children can demand positive mental health from parents and teachers now. And their violations are legal issues now. Just about 5 days back, there was a consultation, national consultation by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights about what accountability was fixed for the education domain by the Supreme Court. talking about mental health as a safety, of course, concurrent with the physical safety. The National Crime Records Bureau, you all know, has given enough data on mental health in terms of suicides, parasuicide, self-harming in children. Alarming, amongst the highest in the world. ICMR, wonderful representation of mental health given to us by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. 13 to 17% children in the entire country suffer unnecessarily from disorders which can be prevented, promoted through well-being, and also minimized in their disability. I hope you all know, we all know as stakeholders, today mental illness, mild, moderate, severe, is a disability under the PWD Act. How many disabilities are we going to deal with? There are 21 disabilities in the PWD Act. Is mental illness going to add on the burden of disabilities? We'll have dropouts in millions otherwise if we don't catch them young for intervention, therapy, promotion, and their care, compassion, and communication. We have to catch them young to help them. I'm not even telling about the National Drug Abuse Survey. You'll be shocked. Nothing less than 5 out of 10 young people, 15 to 25 years, have moved into some kind of a drug abuse in their most productive years. And let me tell you, the most difficult situations where you can't even come out of them, the use of ganja, charas, heroin, LSD, cocaine, phencyclidine, MDMA, ecstasy pills. These are the what we are seeing in the clinical practice every day. I'm sure you all have come across young people in your state, Meghalaya, Assam, Chhattisgarh, Delhi, metros. And lastly, of course, the World Mental Health Report, we are fortunate. It has just come 2.5 months back after 25 years. Please do download that and read it. It talks about how best we can do for children, prevention. So these are, apart from the National Mental Health Survey done by the MANODARPAN team, this is a very good reference point. We all take it as a global research and Government of India research. That will help us to keep our ears open and antennas very fixed about what we need to do. Just in one shot, remember, you can ask for this slides and PPT, kindly keep it with you. 18% of the burden of entire world's mental health disorders are in India. That too only depression, by the way. Anxiety disorders, agar aap mila dein, we are crossing a lot, maybe even 1/4 of the entire world. Are we going to deal only with data and statistics? We had the 2 days conference. Honorable Changson ma'am spoke about how we need to now become practitioners in promoting and preventing and intervening. We had the authority from CIP Ranchi telling us that we need to move out of pages and come to practices. We need to move out from our theories of intervention and actually get to the field. We have 16 lakh schools or maybe more, but can we just reach out to at least 1/10 of them immediately? It's an urgency for the country. Data is good, but data is bad if it is kept in the racks. It has to be in action in any form, but it has to be. We all need to work as teams now. Very recently, the mental health report told us that just watch another 2 years from now, it is going to be a bigger crisis than COVID because it's a graph that is rising like a dinosaur. It's like rising like a hidden elephant. We won't notice it now. And biggest challenges for the schools in India because not discussed, not encouraged, not communicated, and therefore not cared with any compassion. वो बच्चा जो छुपा देगा डर से, अपने घर में बात नहीं करेगा, उसको स्कूल में प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं मिलेगा, वॉइस करने की ओपिनियन नहीं मिलेगी. And if COVID had been a turning point for our family system and a wonderful effort made by our teachers, more than 253 million students came online for education. I would say education warriors, all the teachers. What a salutation for them. But we also did study the family ethos in our culture after you reach out to those families. We realized that, look at the left and the right. These are the common disorders. All these surveys which I just shared with you as reference points have been warning. We need to do something. So I'm happy that apart from the myths that, oh, this will not happen to me. Oh, this is something which is not treatable. Oh, this is something which will happen to the other person. And probably there is no treatment for mental health problems. Are you aware of these myths? Galat dharnaएं जो हैं. Let's work towards actually minimizing, removing, and even strongly condemning the myths now. These are the misconceptions.
I'm sorry to intervene. Thank you for giving the background. The actual thing which has to go to schools, I'm sure everybody is very, very keenly looking forward to your, insights on that. Could we come to the handbook, so that precisely what the handbook is and what these practitioners in the field are, looking forward to, and then how we plan ahead. Because the time is also less, and then, we would like to have a good discussion. I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Ma'am, these are parts of the handbook. They are part of the advocacy of Section A. That's what I was telling you. Median age of onset, Chancellor Ma'am mentioned, is 14 years. Unless we know where we are, how are we going to do trainings? E-addiction in children is linked to mental illness. The advocacy in first part of this, we also need to know what is the methodology of using digital media. These are the flag signs of more than 22 disorders covered in the handbook. This is one example. Drug, sexual abuse and small kids rampant. These are the flag signs which from nursery teachers till adolescent, the teachers, the stakeholders, including the families, need to know. We spoke about this. Lastly, 15% of our adolescents are in need of help, not from teachers and counselors, from every human being in their life. The school needs to be a platform for that. In short, coming to the core part of the manual, remember, everything that has been spoken so far is there, and we need to take it forward. But what are the levels in which such a module, such a mental health module, for the first time as a landmark in the history of education, brings forward? Who is involved and levels of intervention? So keep this in mind. We can talk about it during the interaction. This was released on September 6th at Shiksha Parv, and you can see with the 3 pointers here: flag signs, early intervention, early identification. Modular handbook for teachers and allied stakeholders. All of you are wonderful stakeholders, and each member here is actually the Government of India, Ministry of Education, Department of School Education and Literacy went forward to, you can see the genesis, how this happened. Looking at the aftermath of COVID, that's why I was mentioning the data as well as the reason, because without that, we cannot proceed. Why this is important? Because books and manuals have been there throughout years together. We need to have the context, the content, the methodology, and the target population now revised in the context of what we are talking. Formation of the expert committee by the Ministry of Education in the last about 18 months. And then during November 2021, a lot of brainstorming happened since then. You can see that the sections A, B, and C, to keep it simple, small, and not very complicated, because the supplementary material in this, as you were all asking, is expandable, is dynamic, is progressive. This is an online methodology where obviously a lot of material will keep adding based on the good practices, based on the practices you are carrying out, how those exemplars can become part of this module. What are the linkages drawn between the sections, the 3 sections which the expert committee has made, and moving on to the hands-on training for the teachers? That's very important. And remember, very, very easy to take back home. Age-appropriate lifespan approach was very important in this particular initiative, because right from the nursery, the toddler to the teens, I think this is the first time that we are looking at the multi-stakeholders role, starting with the teachers. The modular handbook was released, as I mentioned. The rollout plan, the first phase of the training, which is part of the pilot also, and the further input, as you people are all asking, will be decided by the Ministry of Education and therefore roll out into the community over a period of time. A lot of suggestions, a lot of changes will keep happening, but the possibility of a uniform approach to make teachers aware and responsible and also empower the families as far as the flag signs are concerned. So we move on to the sections. You'll all be receiving this, so you don't have to worry much about the content area, but giving a bird's eye view, I think since the time is short and we had a lot of time taken earlier, the whole school approach
the pedagogical model of psychosocial support, and the backdrop of NEP 2020. The experts have really worked very hard to bring in contemporary dialogue, contemporary research, and look at how the role of a teacher becomes an advocate, the first aider in mental health, and then look at how the NEP context is integrated into their day-to-day perspective about mental health. Why is that so? Because the NEP for the first time as an education policy has given a huge mammoth task of looking at social emotional learnings and mental health in a big way, incorporating life skills as a methodology. And of course, transaction methodologies have to be a little bit more interactive, participatory, and child-centric. You all have heard that. You all have known that through your teacher training. So what is the crux of the section A, which actually builds up the tempo of teacher training and stakeholders? Develop mental health awareness and nurture a health promoting school where the mental health is integrated and also standalone. Let's not in the coming years just make mental health inclusive of the general health curriculum. It is a task that might actually take away mental health as a noticeable area, responsible area. So yes, as a health promoting school, mental health is there. Planning, designing, implementing the program to promote mental health and prevent mental illness. We have just spoken about what is the burden of disease, the burden of huge amount of volcano standing on us in terms of the young people's disorders. And 14 years is the common age for entire life mental health disorders beginning. So are we reaching out to that component, addressing the vulnerable at risk? All of you are, I feel, very experienced in the idea that we can watch out. We can closely look at children who have a few days, a few weeks of. Can we have some meeting over here? Thank you. Addressing the at-risk students. Who are at risk? Maybe for a 2-second, 3-second time, you please think about it. कौन सा बच्चा at risk है? You'll say, I think all of us are at risk. Who are the ones who probably will
clear white glass?
We have somebody muting the. If I continue, ma'am. Developing self-help attitudes concerning mental health needs. What linkages with establishments as hubs of caring. So these are the 5 major areas the section A would cover and empower the teacher to think a little broader, wider, and futuristic. Very, very capably put forward. Now come to how the Chapter 3 looks like. We had a presentation with the Honorable Secretary, ma'am, a few weeks back, and she mentioned how the Chapter 3 and 4 become the pinnacle of this particular training module. Very important in the context of what we are discussing in 2022, how social and emotional development of children and adolescents has taken a turn, and with developmental milestones also being something which can give a new orientation to our beneficiary teachers. And what are the common flag signs, causes, and risk factors? At least the expert committee could be able to identify, if you see these, we are not going to details now, you can always have a look at the manual. And starting from simple disruptive patterns of behavior in early childhood, disruptive temper tantrums, truancy, hostility, defiance, which is not the same as what was 10, 20 years. We see a linear growth on some of the disruptive behaviors, some of those victims of neglect, abuse, which often are discussed only by the teachers, not even by parents. So a lot of teachers, you have come across from your schools who actually are the first contact people by the foundational years children also. Are we getting prepared for that? And the severity of the problems is different from what it was 1 decade or 2 decades back. So you can see separation anxiety, school refusal, concerns related to specific habits, even biological habits, how physical health, your diet, your sleep, your hygiene influences mental health concerns are the topic of discussion. You all know that health factors, malnutrition, anemia are single largest cause of mental health problems in the country. Not only environmental nurturing issues. When you look at a biological development of early childhood, it is nutrition, emotional nutrition, and also the way the peer group interacts in the school. But we see all these kinds of disorders coming up, multiplying 3 to 4 times. Depressive states and anxiety states, we already mentioned. Issues of inattention and hyperactivity. Please understand, it is not about the name. There is no question of a label. There's no question of a entity or an identity of this disorder. The issue is, are we able to tap, closely observe with empathy without being judgmental, stigmatizing, or labeling? That is important, because that's where the coordination comes between the teacher, the counselor, the parent, and the support from the health sector or the mental health sector in the neighborhood. What about the adolescents? Now, with the current data coming in, the National Mental Health Survey by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the ICMR, and the World Mental Health Report, these are the high points of problems and disorders are seen in the schools. And of course, out of school children also. Every out of school child is likely to influence the habit of a child in a family or at a school. Again, I'm repeating, flag signs, warning signs are missed out. And one important thing we had in the national conference 2 days back, let me share with you that we had the director professor of Harvard University, Professor Gagan Joshi, and he told us, we did ask him, so how's the teenage different in terms of mental health conditions? If at 14 years, if there is use of any substance, for example, we come across a lot of injectable drugs in Far East, we come across a lot of use of very expensive, dangerous drugs in urban metros, and you will ask, is that alone? No. Side by side, antisocial traits, side by side, mood disorders in these children coming from schools all over the northern India where the drugs are available more freely, affordable, and accessible. But the disturbance of mind starts then much early. It could be 2-3 years in advance if drugs is also simultaneously happening. But that comorbidity, the mixture of 2-3 problems together, is actually the significance in childhood and adolescence. I hope you are able to get the point that, say, for example, a child who is mildly autistic, the hyperactivity in that child, the intellectual deficiency in that child, the lack of social mobility or reciprocal social behavior in that child becomes 4 to 5 problems. So it is not about one. All of these interact with each other during life at school. All of these interact with each other. Many of them exist together. And therefore, it affects the family, it affects the economy, it affects the dropout, enrollment in a school. That is what mental health is all about today. It has dimensions beyond imagination. We need to then focus on at least helping a minimum so that support can come from outside. I've already mentioned that the capacity that is enhanced from these sections, the section A and section B, you already mentioned here, you can have a look at it, and also you can certainly tell us where are there more informations and more research papers required for this. But you can see there, when you come to emergencies. Now tell me why this is important. You may think about it or say this is not important. As simple as that. Well, the mental health is a child rights issue, I told you. It is a illness form, is a disability issue now. It is not just confined to school. Immense amount of, there was a question from sir also in the discussion point. Teachers become the pivotal point, but the beginning point is much, much earlier, the peer support, the most important being the family support. Reaching out to the parents through this training modules, reaching out to community stakeholders who are the spokesperson of the protection of child rights, the child welfare committees. These are the ones who help the school in the neighborhood. You are aware that every district in the country has a child welfare committee, has a district child protection officer. Today, child mental health and safety is a human rights issue. And these are the common ones. There are more, These are the common ones which are often discussed. They were discussed in the 2 days conference also. But most important and the challenging one are the 4.2 and 4.3. Yes, we are not ignoring the suicidal behavior, but the 4.2 and 4.3 are dangerously visible. And many times the reason for school dropout and also failure in academics, inadequate interest in day-to-day health, hygiene, and harmony issues. So when this module is being implemented now, the learnings are that, yes, tell us what are the SOPs, what are the ways we can manage these, because this will happen. This will happen. You've heard about shootouts in the school in America. We thought India mein nahi ho sakta hai. Only in the last 1 and 2 years, if you go and see, in the NCR of Delhi itself, there have been peer-to-peer mental health violations, very severe, including taking the life of the child. We all remember why the school safety and school mental health safety guidelines came by the ministry. It was the demand from the court of law, and the turning point was one of the murders that took place in Gurgaon school, where a senior child shot the junior child. The gangs, the guns and the drugs culture is not far away, isn't it? So let's be aware and responsible. This is what the section 3 and 4 cover immensely. Of course, as I said, it is dynamic, it will flow, it will expand as we see contemporary papers, contemporary research keep coming, and exemplars will keep adding to this. Coming to the last part, the chapter 5 and 6. Partly we've already spoken. Planning, sensitization and collaboration with stakeholders, it has already been mentioned. And today morning, Chancellor ma'am also mentioned how we need to actually look at schools beyond the walls where we are not getting in touch with the community for seeking help. That's where the principles of caring and identifying early would be important. And you can see these models in the module when these trainings will happen. On the side, you have seen how the modules are timed, and it is a 2-day complete module, 12 hours for the time being. It will expand. There will be changes as we go ahead, because this is again online. Last part, chapter 6. You're all aware of the POCSO Act, how it influences mental health trauma, how it influences protection of that trauma also, apart from protection of children against sexual offenses. In the court of law, even in the NCR, there are hundreds of POCSO cases pending in children. Hundreds of POCSO cases pending. That means the crime has been committed on the child, but yet the solutions have to come. Now, who is this? Who is this? We are all aware that a large chunk of mental health violations, trauma related to child rights violations, like where the POCSO Act is implicable. Who is it? It is not a stranger. It is not a stranger. It is a person closely known to the child. You should read the Child Abuse Report of India 2007, on which the POCSO Act was made, and how the schools have been given the complete prerogative and the need and the strength in the mental health safety paradigm issued by the ministry. The records, how they have to be maintained by the counselor, by the teacher, by the parents, and how interactions happen when you look at preventing such remarkable steps the schools can take. So these are the ways which have been mentioned, and these are based on the exemplars which are already taking place in the community. 2 days back, we had the presentation by some exemplars. It was so nice to see a school from Chennai, Karnataka, from Indore, Bhopal, Siliguri, Panbari, Kendriya Vidyalaya, from Ludhiana, from Delhi, Ghaziabad, coming forward to present peer educators, what they wish to see and what they are doing for promoting mental health. Having in-house newsletters, peer educator clubs for mental health and life skills, this is worth taking as an exemplar, because the ownership of education lies with the students. And if they and the teachers become partners in promoting this, I think the world is not far away. This is what the last part of the module covers. Sample activities for mental health promotion, flowcharts, posters, of course, some basic preliminary guidelines on classroom behavior management for the teachers. So in short, ladies and gentlemen, there are 4 bubbles we are talking about. And school is the platform, apart from family, of course. It cannot be only the school. But who reaches out to the family? The medium is the child. The source is the school. The bridge is the school-family partnership. A universal present intervention goes to 85% of the population. Universal means constantly keep striving for including these activities on a day-to-day basis, integrated, of course, as the policy says, into the curriculum. Apart from the curriculum, the involvement of children as leaders of this process of mental health advocacy. I wish to share with you, the Adolescent Summit is going to happen in December, like it happens every year, and we are expecting more than 2,000 students, peer educators to come to Delhi to voice their opinion on mental health ambassadors. Now that will be a good task to see after COVID how they have evolved and what they want to share regarding life skills, mental health and well-being. The targeted intervention is what we are speaking about. Early observation, early intervention before it turns into a difficult disorder or a difficult problem where mental health manpower being so less. Sushil ji mentioned from J&K. Mental health manpower, let me tell you, we need about 50 years more. We need 50 years more minimum to have enough counselors for the schools. The entire mental health professional manpower is not more than 15 to 20,000. We need about 3 lakhs of them. Are we able to keep that much burden for them? Let's start early. Let's start systematically. Let's start intensively at the school. So you'll move out from this 15%, move into that 85%, reduce the burden of that 5% on the third bubble. You'll be having 95% who can be communicating, who can be sharing, who can be given the positive mental health and outcome with a rewarding, happy, healthy atmosphere at home also. So it is part of the growing process. It is part of the learning process. Simultaneously, like many, many teachers and all of you tell us, and we've learned from you, even being sensitive to the nuances of daily emotions sometimes is enough. My listening skill, my keeping silent and looking and sharing the child's voice sometimes is enough as a mental health rectification or remedy. But even that doesn't happen. And I mentioned about the role of peer educators. So I'll end over here. And I think I've been absolutely on the dot. I had 45 minutes, but I've taken 30 minutes. It takes a communication to protect a child, community. And this is what we're looking at. Teachers, partners with parents, teachers, partners with peer group, teachers, partners with grandparents also. Let's not leave the elderly people behind. We are a nation where we respect the elderly, we respect our joint families, we respect our senior citizens as wardens of our mental health. The government is taking a lot of initiatives to look at the role of senior citizens as family wardens, as sentinels of tomorrow's mental health. So I can just run through this. I'm sure you can all read this. Well, the world will be a better place because you made a difference in the life of a child. Otherwise, sharing, talking will continue, but each one of us can evolve into a better, a little bit more sensitive human being. Let me tell you, these are not guides for magical action. These are not guides for magic.